Great to be chatting again with the member for Riverina, Michael McCormack. How are you going today?
Very well, thank you, Ricky.
You've had a bit more of a discussion since your recent appointment regarding the Shadow Ministry for International Development and the Pacific.
I got caught up with Simon Birmingham, who of course is the Shadow Foreign Minister, last week, and we had a good discussion about the role, and also have had a chat with Maurice Payne, the former Foreign Minister. And I also reached out, as I said last time, with Pat Conroy, who is the government's Minister for International Development in the Pacific, about the bipartisan way we can approach this. I do think that it's necessary, particularly in these troubled times, to be as bipartisan as we can. I've always believed that for our relations in the Pacific, particularly where we draw a lot of labour, where we give a lot of aid, where it's very geopolitically important for us that as a nation and as a parliament we look to be as constructive as we can from both sides of the parliamentary aisle, and that's what I intend to do. That's certainly Simon's the way he expects the role to be filled. And, of course you're going to have your argy-bargy when it comes to some of the political issues of the day, but by and large, it's too important to get wrong, and I really like to be able to have a good working relationship, as I always have, with Minister Conroy, and I very much look forward to working with him to bring about some good outcomes and results.
Well, I imagine it's something where you want to have healthy relationships continuing, because you have, for instance, with China, they've said recently they're looking to reset the relationship with Australia. You want Australia's relationship with its national bodies, into other nations to be consistent regardless of who's in government, so they don't start playing into national politics. Well,
we've signed too many free trade agreements in our time in government between 2013 and May this year to have those jeopardised. We did a lot of good on the world stage. We really did. Whilst I appreciate that, some are saying that there's been a reset with the Prime Minister's tour of Europe and elsewhere, relations were good. And, we don't want to see those strained in any way, shape or form. I understand that there's been some difference of opinion around submarine deals and the like, but at the end of the day, we will always do what's best in the national interest. I'm sure the government has its own view on that, and I'll work as constructively as I can with the Minister and with the government.
Now, we have been checking in with the new Trade Minister, Don Farrell, about an EU deal. Just more broadly, just on market access, how important is it that our farmers can get access to as many markets on a level playing field?
Oh, crucial. Look, I know how important that was for Dan Tehan, the previous Trade Minister. I know how important it is for Kevin Hogan from the Nationals, who is going to be having a lot to say in the role of trade going forward. And I'm in West Wyalong. It's the heartland of the Riverina. There's a lot of good country around here, and Lockhart, which I know your program particularly beams into. I mean, there's a lot of wet paddocks at the moment, I have to say, Ricky. Driving out here, there's a lot of signs with water on the road and caution there for motorists, but indeed, as you look across the broad landscape, there's a lot of water in the paddocks, and we really need a few drying days. I mean, I know there's always money in mud, but you can also have too much wet weather, and we really need a few drying days so that the seeds have the opportunity to germinate, and our crops have the opportunity to do what they are always doing at this time of year, and that's getting up out of the ground. And we're looking forward to October, November, good harvesting time to make sure that we can benefit from another good season. It would be, for some farmers around these parts, 3 good seasons in a row, which has been, in, I suppose, recent times, quite a rarity.
Yeah, we've been hearing about canola, for instance. There's been a bit of concern there. It's a bit too wet to get in there and do what needs to be done. New South Wales Farmers President James Jackson, we caught up recently, indicated there's a bit more aerial seeding going on these days because it's just too wet to get other machines in.
Indeed. Well, James is a good man, and he would know exactly what's what. I know my sister, who's a farmer with a husband, Ian Buchanan, out of the place called the Gap near Coolamon between Wagga Wagga and Downside there. I know they've bogged the family tractor too many times that she cares to remember in recent weeks, and it is difficult, to get trucks, to get tractors, to get heavy harvesting gear onto paddocks. I mean, if it doesn't dry up pretty soon, then there's going to be some difficulties come harvest time. But look, farmers, they're the great risk takers. They know exactly what they're in for, and they are they don't want to be at odds with the weather, but they're very much in the hands of the weather gods.
And I notice, certainly in my local area, the roads start breaking up a bit as well. You get a few more potholes showing up when you've had consistent wet. Is there a bit of that going on in your area too?
There is, but fortunately, as I travel down Golden Fields Road today, and I know Canola way in Coolamanshire and elsewhere, they've got the trucks out, the local government trucks, and they're throwing a bit of asphalt around, which is good. And that local roads and community infrastructure funding and the doubling of the roads to recovery funding that I put in place as Deputy Prime Minister is still rolling out, and that's good. And councils will tell you, well, they've in some cases they've actually got enough money, but they're just not being able to get the workers out because it's been too wet. But look, of course, councils always want more money, so we hope that the government continues those programs to enable them to local governments to be able to continue to fix up and even grade some of those unsealed roads, which always in need of some repair.
Yeah, I'm talking to Mayor Greg Verdon shortly, so I'll check in with him about that one. But just before
he's a good man, Greg Verdon, and he's from the Rock Huron Creek Footy Club. He knows all too well the importance of local governments and the role they play in those communities around Lockhart Shire and around the Riverina region.
Yeah, speaking of footy, a bit of controversy at a recent game with your Goannas. Was a draw, but then it wasn't.
Well, it was indeed. The scoreboard showed that it was 10-11, 71 apiece between Wagga Tigers and arch rivals Mangapla Cookadini United. East Lakes Goannas are the club my two boys play for, and all the boys were all shaking hands, and everybody was downcast and disconsolate when the goal umpires Rick Furman, who happens to also double up as the Temora Mayor, and Lee Barclay met in the middle and decided that, in fact, whilst the scoreboard might show 71 apiece, their board showed that, their score sheet showed that the Goannas had actually kicked one more behind than that, and told the Mangapla and the Wagga Tigers players as much. And players from Mangapla went from being very unhappy to very deliriously excited, and of course the Wagga Tigers were the complete opposite. It was sort of agony to ecstasy for the Mangapla boys, who then realised that Tigers' season was over, and that means that with only 6 games left, the Wagga Tigers find themselves 3 wins adrift of the top 5, and so that means that the top 5 in the Riverina Footy League will pretty much be Ganmain, Grong, Madong, Collingully, Glenfield Park, Coolaman, Turvey Park and Mangapla. So it's set in the Hume League, which your listeners would be most interested in. This week we've got a pretty big game tomorrow between Osborne and Lockhart. Now, Osborne hasn't lost a game since 2020.
Yep.
And the last time, Lockhart are on the other end of the scale. They haven't won a game for quite a while. They've lost all 12 this season. But you never know. It's always an upset when these two teams meet in the offing, because they're fierce rivals, and you'd like to think that the Demons might just, pull something out of a rabbit out of the hat, perhaps, and get that much needed first win of the season.
Yeah, that'd be good to see. Michael McCormack, member for Riverina. Thanks for that and that update from the Goannas. Much appreciated. We'll talk to you again soon.
Look forward to it.